Hey, Shalom, Mishra. I want to start off as always by giving all praise to Yahweh Hashem, Yahushua Hashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to Apostle GMS and honors to you brothers doing the work in truth or sincerity. This is on the news that the US has threatened to sanction European firms involved in Russian gas project. Right. So ever since our man Trump has come into office, you've been seeing more and more tensions, if you like, between the EU states and and America. For instance, you had a spat between the London Mayor Sadiq Khan and Donald Trump, right? You've also had a lot of the European nations going to America like, what the fuck, why are you why are you damaging the Iran deal, right? And now this is coming out, right? And basically goes on, speaks about how the US as State Department has issued a warning over probable penalties against corporations engaged in the construction of Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, claiming that the Russian project undermines energy security in Europe. Right, basically America's gone around being the big dog, and now it's really just trying to maintain its grip on society. But we know through the scriptures as broken down by the apostles, that this world is coming to an end, right? No other nation is gonna take get the kingdom after this kingdom is destroyed, right? It says 2 Ezra 9 and 6. Right, it says 6 and 9. Slow, my brain just bugged out. I was like, that doesn't look right. It says 2 Ezra 6 and 9. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right? We know that Esau, according to the scripture, according to prophecy, according to breakdown of the scriptures, apostles have broken that down to being Esau. To being the so-called white man, predominantly the Caucasians in the in Europe, and and the Americas, as in the United States, right? But amongst those people, you have you have a lot of our people amongst those people. For instance, you've got the Irish, you've got the Italians, southern, mainly southern Italy. You've got our people dotted around, amongst the French and the Germans, and a lot of our people in Eastern Europe, right? But yeah, we know that his kingdom is going down, and at the end of his kingdom is our kingdom, right? So whether they're trying to play a game of chess, whether they're trying to play a Game of Thrones rather, right? We know that it will come to naught, and we know that once America's done, right, then it is the time for the children of Israel to get their kingdom. The Lord is going to come back. Right, I'll get that in Revelation 11, 1 and verse 8. Right, 11 and 8 says, and their dead bodies, right, their dead bodies meaning, spiritually dead, spiritually asleep. I believe we've got the precepts here, right? You've got them right there. Just get them on in Proverbs. Right, it's Proverbs 21 and 16 says that the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead, right? And you've got your other precepts there if you want to go through them. Ezekiel 37th chapter, Ephesians 2 1 to 6, and Ephesians 5:14, right? It says, spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, right? Because they passed all those homosexual laws, right? Egypt because of slavery, and also said where our Lord was crucified, right? Now you might be thinking, well, our Lord was crucified there. Well, it's where the image of Cesare Borgia was pushed out the most, right? That image of white Jesus, that's where it's pushed out the most, right? It says, and they, in verse 9 says, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half. Now that's representing 350 years, right? So you have what was this? What was it? You had 1620 to 1970. Right, 1970 was when the truth started. Started coming out. The truth was given, and that's also in line with biblical prophecies. Was that in Amos, nest among the stars? Amos, Obadiah. Right, so Obadiah 1 and 4 says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. And when did Esau go up to the snuzzles? At 1969, 1970, right? So basically lining up with that 3.5 days, right? So basically giving you, a way to close up the timeline to be able to see roughly, when these things are going to happen. Because, you might get scoffers that say, no, but that may be, another kingdom. But this is actually, I'm touching the screen like you can see it. These verses here linked in amongst with all the other precepts help you to determine when these things are to come to pass, right? And, just to tell you exactly what it is, that we're talking about, right? So yeah, we know that it's talking about now. We know that it's talking about America, right? And when America goes down, then the Lord is going to set up the kingdom of Israel, right? But let me, I don't even know how I segued into that. But yeah, it says U.S. threatens to sanction European firms involved in Russian gas. Yeah, because it's talking about, you have these nations, you've got the Chinese saying, yeah, we're next, right? You've got, all these, players trying to think that they're going to rule the next kingdom. All right. What do I want? Let me get Daniel 7:18, right? It says, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. And this is talking about the Israelites. They're going to be given the kingdom and they're going to rule the kingdom forever, right? After that. In fact, we read 2 Ezra 6 and 9. That really was the point. I'll just get 44, Isaiah 45. Real quick. It says, but Israel shall be saved in Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. Right? So basically, Israel's kingdom will be, forever. Right, but let me get into this topic. It says Revelation 17:16 says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Right, so basically America's allies are going to turn against her. And go back a year and a bit ago before our man Trump was in office, you're kind of thinking, shit, how's this going to happen? This is going to be an interesting one. Okay, because obviously there's certain things, we read the scriptures, we believe, we see the prophecies, but then France is just seeing seeing how, seeing how they will play out. For instance, the one in Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, talking about how Goma, which is, Turkey, basically was going to fall under the banner of Russia. And we were like, yo, shit, how's that going to happen? And then it happened, right? We saw how it played out. We don't know if this is the, it's this prophecy here starting to play out about how America's allies will turn against her. But like I said, over the last couple of years, you have certainly had situations which basically make you think, oh shit, the relationship between the EU and the US isn't as good, as it in my lifetime. I can only speak about my lifetime, but certainly in my lifetime, it ain't been good. They've been knocking heads a lot. Right, but basically says, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So basically, America's allies are going to be shooting missiles at America. So that includes the UK, right? They're going to be shooting missiles there, man. Those ICBMs, right? It says Jeremiah 50:12 says, your mother shall be sore confounded, right? Reference in Britain, she that bare you, because, America came out of England. Right, says, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nation shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of Yahweh shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. Right, it says, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, O ye that bend the bow. Right, all you nations that have nuclear missiles, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against Yahweh. And then her sins are manifold. For one, in that land, the children of Israel were put in hardcore bondage. And we know what the scriptures say, the land cannot be cleansed of the blood except by the blood of him that shed it. Right? And but I mean that's a whole whole other topic. Right, it's Revelation 18:17. It says, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood far off. And in fact, for 1 hour, and that's a literal 1 hour. So the Lord is going to basically get America destroyed in 1 hour. Right, it says, verse 18 says, and they cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Right. Yeah, and it goes on, but I mean, that was the main point, that America's going to be completely and utterly destroyed in 1 hour. No one's ever going to live there again. Right. Yeah, and one of those, which could, part of the people that are going to be shooting missiles at America are her allies. Right. And we're seeing those tensions starting to grow now, because if I'm not mistaken, Germany has investments in this as well. What do you call it? Yeah, Germany, along with other EU nations, has repeatedly expressed an interest in implementing Nord Stream 2 project. Right, and you got to understand, in Europe, Germany's basically the big dogs. Yeah, you've got the UK, historically, but in terms of economically, it's basically the big power. In the EU, it's the strong horse, and a lot of people feel that really Germany, have the most power in the EU. Right, so if they're along with the project and they're loggerheads with America, you can really see, those tensions rising. But yeah, Lord's will, you are edified as always, and until the next round, I'll say shalom.